Welcome to the Space Dreamers podcast, a Su Madre production.
Welcome to the Space Dreamers podcast. We are here today to discuss a collection of short stories, the final collection of Arthur C. Clarke short stories in this Arthur C. Clarke saga. After this, we have 9 novels to read, and then that's it. There'll probably be some bonus episodes in there. But we're here to talk about The Wind from the Sun, which was released in 1972, the same year as the next book, which is Rendezvous with Rama. And I thought I showed you a snippet of the preface, and I'm joined by Amy, my frequent co-host. Say hello, Amy.
Hello.
You know, it's funny, too, because in the preface, I'll just read this first paragraph.
You got a preface?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It says, this volume contains all the stories I wrote in the decade of the 60s, which was one of the most dramatic periods in the entire history of science and technology. Those years embraced the laser, the genetic code, the first robot probes on Mars and Venus, the discovery of pulsars, and the landing on the moon. Many of these events, either in anticipation or after achievement, are reflected in these stories. For that reason, I have placed them in chronological order. And I think we both maybe agree that this is, well, I think maybe this is the weakest of the collections that I've read.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's just because I have short story fatigue, which could be it.
Yeah.
But what I find interesting is that I feel like when you're trying to create something, sometimes the fallback is to just go in chronological order. If you can't think of a creative way to do it, like when I made that documentary about the band, I tried multiple, like, cool intros, or I'd be like, do this flashback and blah, 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 and I just couldn't make it work. So then I was like, I'll just go in order.
Right.
So maybe that's what happened with this one. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's no way to know. But I just found that funny.
I read them in the big book, the big collected book, and it's interesting because I feel like hearing that preface, this is like the one that like you should read in order. Like I didn't even know that because mine didn't have a preface.
Right.
And I feel like I was like intrigued. Like I felt like once you told me that, I'm like, oh, maybe I'm missing out on something. But it wasn't.
Yeah. Well, actually, I didn't read this one in order.
Oh.
I read all the other ones like a book.
Oh, funny.
But
not this one?
only because I'm totally on. Like I didn't want to read these.
Yeah. While
I was reading them, so I went in order of how short they were.
I gotcha.
Like I just found short ones and I read them and I just banged them out.
Yeah.
Took my notes.
And it's actually what's funny is that the way I read these this time in the collection was usually that's what I had done in the past 2 that I read. But this one I read I went from whichever one was first in the collection to the end.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's funny.
Nice. So I had mentioned this right before we started, so I figure we'll get it out of the way right now.
Yeah. That
there is a quote that I found. A lot of the things that are often quoted by Clarke, like I kind of know.
Mm-hmm.
Like when the amount of times that I see on Instagram, like, the only way to see whatever that quote is, the only way to discover the limits of the possible is to go beyond them into the impossible. Yeah. I've seen that quote so many freaking times.
Yeah.
But like, there's a lot more of them that I know, kind of by heart. And one of them is this one, which is from Maelstrom 2. It's in the very first paragraph. I'll read the whole paragraph, but the last sentence is what is often quoted by him because it's a great line. He was not the first man, Cliff Leyland told himself bitterly, to know the exact second and the precise manner of his death. Times beyond number, condemned criminals had waited for their last dawn, yet until the very end they could hope for a reprieve. Human judges can show mercy, but against the laws of nature there is no appeal. against the laws of nature, like that human judges can show mercy, but against the laws of nature there is no appeal. I think that's a great quote.
It is a great quote.
Just on its own, like that's good stuff.
Yeah. That's actually one of the stories that I did enjoy reading. I didn't love it, but I did enjoy that one.
That's the one where he's orbiting the moon, right?
Yeah.
That one was good. That one was like, see, again, man, short stories, like, they work so well when you're kind of just reading them and you don't really know what's going on or why it's going on, and then the end happens and you're like, oh, I understand everything I just read now.
Right.
And that's what that one did.
Yeah.
And the visual of that ending I thought was so cool. Mm-hmm. But
yeah, there was. I think that's why I liked that, is that there was a lot of like the entire thing took place like in motion with action and like, but like kind of drawn out. I don't know. It was an interesting one.
Let's just talk about that one first.
Yeah.
So it's called Maelstrom 2. And I thought the beginning was really cool, that idea that he would be in water in order to like absorb, or in order to more easily deal with the G-forces, you know, of taking off. Like, I thought that was a cool idea.
Yeah, because aren't they like, isn't it basically he's being like shot out of a cannon essentially? Like,
well, it's the same thing that he did in Prelude to Space, where he imagines that the best way to get someone to space would be to launch them at very high speeds on a metal track.
Yeah.
And in the Prelude to Space, it's in the Australian desert, and it's 5 miles long. So you put like a rocket-propelled thing on a track, and then you angle it at the perfect angle upward to put you into an orbit around the Earth. So he was still clinging to that idea.
Yeah.
But I think in this case, it was on the moon, so I think it would be probably easier to do it there than here, because there's less gravity, no atmosphere, all that stuff. What did you think of this story? Because you said you liked it.
Well, like I liked the idea that like I could like imagine like that like slow. It's like a slow burn, like slow fate. Like, you know how he starts out, he's just like, I know exactly how long it's going to take me to get around, and once I get around, I'll crash. Like, I'm gone.
Right.
So it was like he had like ample time to like prepare and like, you know, like contact his family and like, you know, but it was also like it was perpetual motion, which I thought was interesting. You know what I mean? Like there's another story in here where it's like, you know, like the end is coming. And so it's like, it wasn't really that I like, but it was like that he was traveling, like, and he was like, it seemed so plausible that he would be okay. And then of course he was. So like, it was just fun to kind of like be there, like flying around the moon with him.
Probably my favorite part about that story is that basically all hope is lost, and then he is contacted by whatever it is, ground control.
Yeah, on the moon, yeah.
And they tell him what to do.
Right.
And neither you nor him know why. So it's cool, because then you're anticipating, like, why did they make him jump out at this precise moment?
Right.
So that was cool, because then, like, the punchline at the end, you realize, oh, that's why they did it.
Yeah.
And it's so cool. So the idea, too, in this one, I'm 99% sure I got this right. Hopefully you'll agree, is that orbiting a body, like orbiting even the sun, it's not a perfect circle. It's like an oval.
Yeah.
So at one point, you're going to be a lot closer to the thing that you're orbiting than at the other point, at another point. So the idea is that when he's at his closest, he's going to hit a mountain range.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's how they know, like, the precise moment he's going to die, is that they know that the thing that he's in is going to smash into a mountain range, and that will kill him.
Yeah.
If he was just a little higher, he could just continue to orbit the moon.
Yeah.
And someone could just come get him.
Yeah.
So the whole thing that happens in the story is that he jumps out of the ship, so that the ship is in front of him, and then the ship literally punches a hole in the mountain range.
Yeah.
And he just goes through it.
Yeah.
Like, that is so cool. I think the lead up is a little, like, you know, contacting his family. I didn't care about that.
I mean, I didn't care, but I kind of thought it was like, you know, it's like what you would do, and like how he kind of like felt like if given the chance, and like how he felt like bad that he wasn't going to be able to like call again because now he was going to try to, so it was just like, I don't know, like it was like, that's the thing. I kind of feel like with a lot of these stories in this, like nothing was like really exciting. It was just like, it was interesting to be on the journey with him.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
And I think, I think that I would just like to see that done in a movie, I guess. I would love to visually see what that would look like.
Right.
Like that impact, just like blasting a hole in these like millions-year-old mountains.
Yeah, and then he just like flies right in between, and
that'd be cool.
Yeah. And then like he says, he comes back. Like by the time like the story starts with him being shot off the track, and then it ends with him seeing the track again and knowing he's going to be fine.
Right.
Like they're going to be able to get him.
Yeah, that was a pretty
like
cool.
He came all the way around.
Yeah, that was a pretty cool story. I wonder if there's a Maelstrom 1.
Oh.
Maybe he wrote a different story. I really don't know.
Why was it even called Maelstrom?
No
2?
idea.
Huh.
I don't. What does Maelstrom even mean? I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah.
Oh, a powerful whirlpool in the sea or a river. So maybe it's 2 as in like it's not about water this time. It's about orbital mechanics.
Oh, maybe.
Not sure.
Yeah.
But I actually want to talk. We good on that one?
Yeah.
Okay. We can make this a short episode because there's not like a whole. I don't know. I want to talk about one that I kind of hope that you did what you did with Redemption.
Oh, I don't know.
Dude, it made it so much better.
Really?
I have to find it. Hold on. Okay. Transit of Earth. Do you remember that story?
Okay. I didn't know we were going to talk about this one so soon.
Okay.
It was my favorite story. I loved every second of it. I loved it so much.
Okay.
I really, really did.
Give us a plot description, and then I'll take over at the end. Well, do you know what I'm getting at? So at the very end of that story, he decides to go out onto the surface of Mars.
Yeah.
And just walk around with his last moments, and he plays a song.
Oh.
And I looked up the song.
Really?
And it makes it so much cooler.
Really? Oh, is it like because
you'll recognize it the moment you hear it.
Oh, really? Because that's what he says. He couldn't bear the human voices, so it was all instrumental.
Okay, dude, you got to hear this.
Okay.
This is what he listened to. You ready?
Okay.
Like, we all know this song.
Yeah.
Like, imagine walking around Mars.
Oh, my God.
Isn't that crazy?
That is totally crazy.
So, yeah.
Like, that's how you go out.
Right? Crazy.
That is totally awesome.
I can probably play that, so.
That is totally awesome.
So tell us about the plot.
So, like, what's going on is there's a mission to Mars to record the transit of Earth. And the transit of Earth is when Mars, Earth, and the sun are all lined up in a line.
Yep.
So, like, we can witness the transit of Venus and Mercury because they're between us and the sun.
Yes.
But the only way you'd be able to witness the transit of Earth is if you're on Mars.
Yeah, same way you can't look at your own face.
What?
Same way you can't look at your own face. You'd have to remove your eyeball, turn it around, and then point it at your face.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yes, you are correct, though. So the ship, they send a mission to Mars specifically to record transit of Earth. So there's one ship that lands on Phobos, and then another ship goes down from Phobos to Mars, and something happens where they almost like lose the ship, but they don't have any ability to get back to Phobos, to the ship that's going to take them back to Earth.
Yeah, so like their landing vehicle loses because of some accident its ability to then go back up to Phobos.
Yeah.
and then go back to Earth.
Right. And so, for like, it's explained that like everyone thought everything, even like, citizens of Earth were like pleading, trying to like come up with all these emergency, plans to figure it out. And they've like, there's no way it's going to happen. Like it was 15 people, 10 are on the 10 are on the main ship on Phobos. Only 5 went down to Mars. And then it's also revealed that those 4 of those 5 actually gave their life to give him, the main character who's telling the story from the first person perspective, so that he could do his job. Like there'd be enough oxygen for him to survive so he could actually record everything.
Right, record the transit of Earth.
So, but it basically, like the story starts out with him explaining that there are 3 ways he can go out. He can either
CO2.
Yeah, CO2 can kill him.
There's like a suicide pill or something.
Yep, he has a suicide pill, and then also he could just suffocate in the vacuum of Mars.
Oh yeah, he explains that would take 10 to 15 seconds.
Yes. But like, so that's the thing is like he goes into like, it's like the first thing is the CO2. He goes into like why that would be a nightmare for him and why he doesn't think it's an option. He goes into, like number 2, the suffocation in the vacuum, why he's not interested in that being an option. And then number 3, the poison, he's like, it just isn't an option. Like I would never do that.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I honestly think that I would not do that either. I don't think I could do that.
It's such an effort to go to Mars to just kill yourself. That's crazy.
Yeah, but not only that, like it's like when you do that, like you're taking away whatever, like even if one of those other 2 options is a horrible experience, which like he kind of justifies that it might not be, but like even if you take that away, like you're taking away your chance to have that experience, as morbid as that sounds. So it's right. To me, I would rather go out like experiencing this new experience.
Okay. Yeah.
As screwed up as that is.
Yeah.
But it's like,
I mean, you basically spend your whole training like,
yeah,
this is a thing that could happen. Like,
yeah.
I mean, it's the ultimate, everyone talks about it, but no one knows what it's like.
Right.
So why not?
Yeah. So I agree with that. So anyway, and then, so then basically it's like it's like, the information, like the goings on are kind of like explained throughout. Like you find those things out as he's telling the story, but he's also witnessing the transit of Earth, and he's also talking about how he's dealing with, the isolation and the fact that he's, definitely not going to make it. And
wait, maybe you were getting to this, but I really love how he explains that he watches the ship leave Phobos.
Oh God.
That's pretty brutal.
Yeah. I mean,
that was pretty cool.
And how he said how like he hears them say goodbye.
Right.
Like it's just, that's what I mean. The story was so good. It was so good.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Yeah.
And again, it's not even like it's both in the way that it was told, I think, and the things that it's dealing with.
Right.
Because like I feel like if it had been told a different way, because actually if you think about it, like, Maelstrom, that's kind of the same concept where you think, you're not going to make it. So you're like going through all these, and I feel like he's written other stories in that same vein. But like this one really like hit me. So
how do you feel about the parts that describe like visually what it's like to watch Earth cross in front of the sun?
I thought it was really cool, and I really wish that like we could see that.
Well, you can see it, because I was just about to say, well, you can't quite see it, but what, doesn't it remind you of a certain movie? Maybe you don't remember.
No, what?
Sunshine. Do you remember in Sunshine when they watch the transit of Mercury? And
that's
dude,
right.
And I saw that movie when I was in high school, so I didn't know like what kind of sci-fi was my jam.
Right.
And now I know.
Right.
That's my fucking jam, dude.
Yeah.
It's because in that scene, it's such a combination of the music.
Mm-hmm.
Like Danny Boyle movies have great music.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this like super chill, like beautiful music.
Yeah.
And they sit there. And the other thing that's so cool about it, and it's like this is just what I love about space exploration and just space stuff, is that everyone on that ship stops what they're doing in Sunshine to go watch it happen.
Yeah.
They all gather in the observation room.
Yeah.
They like lower the shades so they can look directly at the sun, and they just sit there for 5 minutes and they watch Mercury go across the sun.
Right.
And the way it's filmed, I mean, is amazing. And it's, I would argue, more to the credit of Danny Boyle than to like what you're actually looking at, just because he's a great filmmaker. But I remember there's one shot, man, where it's like really far, like because where they are in Sunshine, in the ship, the Icarus II, I remember it's called, from your point of view with your naked eye, it's a very small dot.
Yeah.
You know, it's still cool. But then
Right.
the last shot, and I think it fades from this shot to the next scene,
Yeah.
is super zoomed in.
Yeah.
So there's like haze, and it's like shaky camera, and you're just seeing this body like move across the sun, and it's so beautiful.
Yeah, so the whole time that he was describing it in the story, I was just like, that must be incredible.
Yeah. And I love too how he explains that he can see like the moon then is behind the earth as
and it
you
like
see.
comes and how like as he's telling the story, he's correlating it to the guy who went to the Antarctic, and like how it's like there's so many like juxtapositions in this story, and like I just love how the story is told, so that it must have been an amazing, I mean, like horrifying, but like amazing experience. And like he seems like by the end of it, remember, he's like, there's like that line where he's like, and all the nightmares were gone. Like he had he had no fear. Like the nightmares that he talks about in the beginning about the CO2 and the suffocation, he's just like, they were gone. Like it's like after having experienced something like that, it must just be that much easier.
Yeah, I guess, because you're the only person. To face
a very difficult, right.
You're the only person who got to see that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I feel like the spaceship leaving Phobos couldn't have gotten too far. They should have been able to watch it, right? Like, why do you have to be on Mars to watch that? Maybe I'm thinking too much about it.
Because I think, I guess, but I think it would be like it's like the perfect angle. I think maybe is that what it is?
Oh yeah, because the Mars is lined up.
Yeah,
right. With
Earth. Because that's what it is. It's Mars, Earth, and the Sun are all lined up. So I looked it up, and unfortunately, we the next transit of Venus will not be until like 2157 or something like that. Like I'm just throwing a number out there, but it's like far, far away. However, Mercury is going to be coming around often.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it must go around quicker because it's closer.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. But it's like it's like I saw pictures. It's like teeny, tiny, but still, it's so neat.
Yeah,
you know?
And you have to have like amazing.
And
you have to
I
have
also,
like super strong filters. You can't just look at the sun.
The whole reason why I looked it up is because even like I looked. So the transit of Earth with Mars is going to happen again, and in
the book it's 2084.
Yeah,
right?
in 2084, which is really neat because one of the things he says is like when he's like, from my perspective, I'm watching this happen, but from Earth's perspective, Mars is the brightest object in their sky, which I was like, that's so cool,
right?
You know?
Yeah, Heather and I listened to a podcast while we were driving about Venus.
Yeah.
Dude, a day on Venus is longer than a year.
What?
Yeah. Like it spins on its axis
really
slower than how
wow.
And plus it's I don't know all the facts, but the one of the reasons it does it slower is because it usually when and there are words for this, but I'm just going to have to describe it. So like the Earth spins so that the part of the Earth that's facing the sun is going in the opposite direction that the Earth is going.
Oh.
But Venus is the opposite. So it's like it slows it down. So it's like you're kind of doing this instead of like this.
Right.
So it's faster. It probably doesn't make any sense. But
yeah,
it was pretty interesting.
That's crazy. That's another thing that I thought was really interesting about this story, which I felt like it was like, because at the end he talks about the, like, Mars itself. And it struck me the way that he describes it as Mars is an old planet. And it's funny because, like, I think I've always thought, and this is like just me probably being an idiot or whatever, but like in my like perception of like us looking for life out there, I always like perceived it as like we'd find new life. And so it's like, it was like I was struck by the end of the story thinking we might find old life.
Extinct life, potentially.
Yeah.
Fossils.
I like never, or even just like the life that we find is the only thing that made it.
Right.
Like, that just like blew my, so this story was just like from beginning to end.
And you know, this story
like,
also
I loved it.
Finally forced me to look up why he names everything that he puts on Mars Lowell. Remember in the second novel, Sands of Mars, Port Lowell. I finally looked it up. Lowell is the last name of the guy who popularized the idea that there were canals on Mars, that there were intentionally made canals on Mars.
He mentions that,
right?
Yeah. There was just beautiful writing in this story too. Like I'm just remembering that part, the way that like he describes it. Yeah, I really liked that story a lot.
Yeah, and I couldn't, again, the whole time I was reading it, I couldn't help thinking about Sunshine, like that scene in Sunshine, and like it's such it's so unimportant to the plot of that movie, but it is every time I watch that movie, like that's the moment where I'm like, dude, this is so cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, what else do you have a particular one you want to go to next?
Well, that was the one that I really liked. So after this, we can,
let's just go in order.
Okay, what do you got?
The Food of the Gods.
Oh, okay. So I got a question about this one.
What?
What I couldn't figure out, it was fun. The way the story was funny, like the way that it was told, like how it was like some guy, like just like it was just dialogue, like the guy like talking to the council or whatever.
Right.
But what I couldn't figure out is what was really being manufactured. Like, what was the food? Was there actual human meat in it, or was it just synthesized to taste like it?
I don't know.
Like,
I didn't look that far into it.
The whole story was like horrifying in the sense that, I mean, it's about cannibalism,
right?
Which is hysterical. Like
is that funny?
No, I mean.
Jesus.
No, it's not funny, but it's funny in the book. Like the way that he, the way
that's what he's getting.
Yeah,
to.
In the story, the way that he tells it, it's funny. But it was just interesting to think that like the biggest reason why we shouldn't eat each other is because it's the best tasting thing out there. It seems so stupid to even talk about a story like this.
Yeah.
Like,
what bothered me about the story was that it's called The Food of the Gods.
Yeah.
Clarke is clearly an H.G. Wells fan. In the year 2020, I read The Food of the Gods by H.G. Wells, and it is in no way is that novel about cannibalism. So I don't understand the title.
Yeah, I don't know.
The Food of the Gods by H.G. Wells is about these scientists that create like some kind of synthetic food that the idea is to just make it so that chickens are like the size of humans to like solve world hunger. Yeah, maybe that's it.
Well, I think
because that's what they're trying to do.
Because they're talking about how like the major food they're synthesizing foods.
Right.
So that
and then that just morphs into like the bugs get into it. So then you got giant ants.
Yeah.
And it just becomes like and then humans start eating it. And you have like giant humans. But cannibalism's never a thing. But I guess the intention in both is the same.
Right.
It starts out innocent, like we're going to solve world hunger. And then it's like we're going to either eat people or create giant rats that eat all the English townsfolk. So, yeah.
Yeah. So it was just a silly story.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
The second one was Maelstrom 2. The third one is The Shining Ones. So, dude, okay, first of all, the movie we're going to talk about when we're done is called The Shining.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, and not only is that connection, but just because The Shining is about telepathy.
Yeah.
Partly.
Right.
And, like, so the whole beginning of that movie, I was like, this is Clarke, man.
Yeah.
Obviously, the ending is not.
Right.
But even
yeah,
like
no.
2/3.
Yeah.
But I found that really interesting. Like telepathy is just a fucking interesting thing, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really is.
Absolutely.
I wonder how long that's been a thing that people have thought about.
That's a really good question.
You know?
Right.
Because we always hear about, like, ancient cave paintings of, like, UFOs. Like, clearly we've been obsessed with the sky. Like, how long, like, when did we first, probably the first person to think that God was talking to them in their head or something.
Oh, maybe.
Maybe, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
But
that is a good question, because it's like, and it's like the same with City in the Stars, about how one civilization, like one city focused on technology, the other city focused on the mind, and communication. So it is kind of interesting that, like, we seem to be obsessed with it, but, like, why are we not, or maybe we are, trying to, like, figure out if it's actually possible.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that kind of bothered me in the movie, is it's like when the cook talks to him in his head, you know, it's like, why are you just, I mean, maybe they get into it in the book, you know, but why would you just be like, not that you think that Jack Nicholson's going to murder anyone, but why would you meet this kid and you know that you both have telepathy and then just be like, all right, bye? Like, I think the kid needs some guidance, maybe, regardless of all the horror. Take away all the horror.
Right.
Like, if you're clairvoyant and so is someone else, I don't know. It's just, but anyway, I don't want to get too much in the movie yet.
Right.
So, the Shining ones, which again has nothing to do with. It just has a similar title. That's the only reason I brought that up.
But no, but it is kind of interesting, because
it is about language.
Yeah, it's about communication. You know, outside of language and words, and the only way humans know how to communicate, apparently.
Right. So basically, what is it? A hydroelectric plant that he's in? Yeah.
The guy's a deep sea engineer.
Yeah, so he's a deep sea engineer, and he's hired by the Russians, which there's some Cold War things happening that something has damaged the machinery deep underneath this like man-made lake thing. Yeah,
I wrote that the project that he was working on is attempting to harness thermal energy from the sea.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and there's something is being, like, bashed in. Something got destroyed.
Yeah.
So he's called in to, like, figure out what this is. But the main like thing is that his employers are like, we think this is sabotage.
Right.
So you assume that, like, some other country coming in to sabotage this Russian science experiment.
Yes, exactly.
And then as he gets down there, and that's what I like stories like this where you have like the main character knows more than everyone around him, but he kind of you get what he decides to share out loud, but you also get what he's thinking.
Yeah.
So I like there's, like, one moment when, like, as soon as he sees it, he's like, oh, like, whatever did this was massive. Yeah. Which means it was probably a sub. Like, because in the beginning, he's like, sabotage, no way. But then when he sees it, he's like, oh, shit. Yeah. This probably was sabotage.
Exactly.
So then, I don't remember all the details, but then he finally goes down there, and he basically...
Well, isn't there's a part about... there's a piece that's missing. And I think isn't that what triggers him to go, like, something's going on here.
Okay.
Because there's, like, an actual missing piece.
Right. I don't remember all the
details.
So
he has to go, because he goes down twice, doesn't he? Like, wants to fix it, and then another time to, like, replace the missing piece or whatever.
Yeah, but doesn't he go down... I remember, doesn't he go down at one point out of, like, his own curiosity? Like, doesn't he, like, lie to somebody or something? I can't remember.
I think that's the last time he dives.
But I hate it when he goes down. He's like, I like to go down with the lights off and look at all the shimmery creatures. I'm like, bro, what? The fuck? No way, dude. I would be so scared. Yeah. I would be scared with the lights on, too. I'm not down with the ocean at all.
Yeah.
Like, I'll swim in up to my waist, but being underwater in
no.
deep ocean, no thanks.
Oh, no.
So
No, thank you. I don't even like a lake when I can't see what's underneath me.
yeah.
Like when the light filters down and goes to that point. Oh, stop it. Nope.
So so basically, and I love. Oh, then he gets on his sonar, right? There's something very, very big.
Yeah.
Coming toward him.
Yeah.
And I think he's like, there's only 3 nations in the whole world with submarines this big. So,
Right.
but then with the lights off, and then he cuts all the power
Mm-hmm.
so that nothing would be able to detect him. And he has the lights off, and he sees like a little glow in the distance.
Yeah.
And it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger as it comes closer. And then he realizes that it's 2 giant squids
Yeah.
that have like crazy light patterns on their bodies.
Yeah.
And he's fascinated by it, and he's trying to figure out like this light like I don't know, he's just fascinated by it, watching the lights. And according to the reader and the guy, it's like there's no distinguishable pattern. But then, and I fucking love when he sees the indistinguishable shape of his own submarine on the side of a squid.
Yeah.
Which means that these squids are like speaking to each other with lights.
Right. And then doesn't he even the other thing that was awesome is when he sees it, that when he figures out that what they are doing, which is like making pictures, like hieroglyphs basically,
right,
on their bodies,
right,
with the lights. And he says he said there was one that kind of confused him, but then he realized it was the squid's interpretation of itself.
right.
I loved that.
Which basically says like self-awareness, I guess, which is cool.
Right.
And then like I guess the ending is basically that he realizes that they're actually signaling their big brother or something. I forget why he assumes that these must be little ones.
Yeah, well, no, it's because the lights work out like a scale. Like he realizes that they're also that like they go from like pictures to scale, and he's like, wait, why are they so small? And why is that? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just love that. I mean, it's like the same thing as if you went to another planet and met aliens.
Well, yeah, and like that was what was interesting too, is that the main character is talking about how they can't figure out why these cold creatures would want to come and be like, they figured that everything would stay away because of the heat.
Right.
But then he's like,
because deep sea creatures by nature want cold.
Right.
Right.
So but then he's like, why do humans go and do the things that they do and the places that they don't belong? And so he's like saying basically like, this is a sign of intelligence.
And it's like a scientific expedition.
Yes. So it's a scientific expedition for the squid. And he's like, they're going to go back and get like the big guy. Like he's like,
the
whether
muscle.
it's, yeah, exactly. He's like, whether it's like whatever that creature's, the bigger creature's job is.
Right.
But like, they need more like information. So they're going to call out the big guns.
Right.
So
it's almost like, it reminds me of, remember the beginning of, so this is such a stretch, but remember in the beginning of The Fifth Element?
Yeah.
When it's like there's that Egyptologist.
Oh, yeah.
Like he's the brains.
Right.
And he keeps yelling to the kid about the light.
Yes.
It's like the brains does the thinking, and then you just hire people around you to do the physical work.
Exactly.
So those two were like the scientists.
Yes.
And they got the brawn to come, I guess, pull apart
parts.
this thing so that they could study it.
Right. So it's just interesting because it's like what it's really about is like that there could be these advancements all over this globe with other creatures that we don't know because we don't like, it's not until you make that connection, like until you put us as humans who are just animals back into that category, that you can see that like what we did, there's no reason why other creatures couldn't do it too. So it's like an advancement of intelligence. Right. It's interesting.
Yeah, and I've said this before, but I'm excited to get to one of the later novels, The Songs of Distant Earth, because in that, it's like about humans expanding, and they end up on this planet that's like almost entirely ocean. And so because of that, the smartest things on this planet are crustaceans that live in the ocean.
Yeah.
So it's just cool. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it is so fascinating. It's so fascinating to think, like, yeah, we're so much more advanced in our brains than it's safe to say the creatures on land, because we are on land with them and we can watch what they do.
Yeah.
But the one I know is the sperm whale has 3 million additional years of evolution on us.
Yeah.
So, like, they could be smarter than us.
Right.
Who knows?
Right. I feel like we've had this conversation too, because like what we consider like intelligence, like it's like, you know, it's like how like we're now discovering that people learn in so many different ways, and that you can have these different kinds of intelligences just within a human. So it's like there could be other forms of intelligence out there that we just don't even know about.
Yes, I agree.
So like we think that you're just a dumb animal, but really your intelligence in another situation or in regards to something else could be way more advanced than us.
Yeah, I mean, just think about like drug sniffing dogs.
Yeah.
It's like that's a whole other plane of sensitivity that we don't even possess.
Right.
So yeah. I loved the Shining ones. I really did. Mostly, and I mean, it's a well-written story, but what I love is the encounter. Is two intelligences, basically an alien.
Right.
Because they, encountering each other and like interacting. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
The fourth one is the wind from the sun. And this one took me like 4 sittings today to read because it's so goddamn long.
I know. This was the one I got to this one and I was like, dude, I don't know if I can keep reading this.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. Like, there are things about it that I liked. Like, when he describes the vessels, it's, like, really cool.
Yeah, and I think probably, like, my favorite moment in the whole story was when the two that collide in the beginning.
Oh, right.
Like, that was just awesome to visually, like, imagine.
Maybe we should say what this is.
Yeah. So it's like they're 7 different countries, not countries, like 7 different countries, I guess. It's like a yacht race.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
with spaceships that are harnessing the power of the sun to move them.
Yeah. And they're like orbiting Earth, right? Like we're going around.
They go around Earth a couple times, and the winner is whoever passes the moon.
Oh yeah, so they're going to use. That's right. They're using Earth. They're going to go. I think they have to
probably
go twice.
Build
and then it's like the momentum to like slingshot out to the moon.
Yeah. And I'm reading it, and I'm like, why don't I like this? And it came. I was like, I don't have any interest in sailing.
Yeah.
And so I was like, if this was about sailing, I probably wouldn't care. But then I thought about it, and I was like, if a person who was a sailor or a person who does yacht or sailing races wrote a story about their experience doing that, it would be filled with so much detail and so much awareness that the audience doesn't know what they're talking about, so they would have to describe it. And we've talked about this before, it's a real thing on Earth, so it would interest me,
right?
But when you have like it's in space, like I love sci-fi obviously, but it's not real, and it's not easy to imagine, so you're kind of just stuck with what the guy says,
right?
And so I really like, that's sometimes like the most fun kind of like movies or like documentaries where it's about something you don't know about. Yeah. So you learn while experiencing a story, you're learning about this thing that you don't know anything about, And I think that works so much better when it's a real thing that you could have real curiosity about. Obviously, we're curious about space.
Right.
Most people are curious about space, but not in a capacity, especially like sporting events in space, like racing in space, not interesting.
I think
and a waste of fucking resources.
Absolutely. And I think you definitely just hit the nail on the head for me, like why I couldn't figure out why I didn't like it. And you're totally right. If this was like a real story about real yachting, even though I'm not really like interested in that, I would probably find it fascinating.
And also because Clarke doesn't have very good characters. So I think that if you were to make like a movie or write a book about yachting or about a sailboat race, you would have to populate it. If you wanted to attract people who don't like that kind of thing, then you have to populate it with interesting characters.
Yeah.
And so this book doesn't really have very interesting characters, or this story. And then by the end of it, I'm like, all right, who's going to win? And nobody fucking wins. And it's like, Jesus, man, what are you doing? I think that the ending, I think it would have been more effective if he could have like explained the whole first like 12 pages in a page.
Yeah.
And that would be like past tense. And then the next page, the second page would be, and now we get this this radio signal telling us that we have to abandon because of some dangerous solar flare.
Right.
Like if that was in the moment, but everything else was in the past.
Yeah.
But as the story stands, you get it all. You get it starts before they even go.
Oh yeah.
And then it goes all the way to when it's over.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
It was It was like, and that was the thing is that though you're right, because like by the time I plowed through it, and by the time I got to the end, I actually like kind of like enjoyed the sentiment of the end. You know, like there was actually like a couple like really cool lines at the very end where he says, "Goodbye, little ship. I wonder what eyes will see you next. How many 1,000 years from now?"
Right.
And then, but his would be the first of all man's ships to set sail on the long journey to the stars.
Right. Okay.
So like,
I do like that, but
Yeah.
but this is a thing where it's like real life we've done that.
yeah, you're right.
We have ships.
Yep.
We have
That we've
probes
just
that are doing
sent.
that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like if it was
Yeah.
the 60s and like going to the moon was the craziest thing ever,
Yeah.
then you'd be like, oh, someone made a thing that's going to
Yeah.
leave the solar system.
Yes.
Now, when you
Now,
read it,
yeah.
you're like, yeah, that's already... And the real thing is a lot cooler than this freaking whatever, this
Yeah, you're totally right.
sailboat in the sky.
Yeah. That was a tough one.
Just mostly because of how long it was. Like in my book, my mass market paperback, it's like 20 pages.
Jesus.
And it was rough.
Yeah.
Okay, so The Secret. I don't even remember.
Wow.
Wait, a scientist discovers that living on the moon prolongs life and is freaking out about it. Interesting about space plagues. Ooh, space plagues. I liked how they talked about... So the whole idea, right, that everyone has in their brain is that if you don't have the immunities for something, it'll fucking cripple you. It'll destroy you.
Right.
You know, because it's like you go to another country, you're not...
Yep.
So, but this turns that on its head and says that maybe if you encounter something that is so foreign to you that it wouldn't even be able to interact with your biology.
Oh.
I thought that was a cool idea.
That is interesting.
And it's the opposite of, if you remember, the Andromeda Strain. Do you remember what that is about?
No.
Because we watched the movie. I read the book and I watched the movie, but we watched the movie a long time ago.
Yeah.
Boring movie. Good movie, but boring movie. I'm not surprised you don't remember it. But the whole idea of that story
Oh, no, I do remember it.
is that a satellite
Yes.
picked up...
No, I love that movie.
Okay.
That movie's so good.
Right.
I mean, it's like slow, but good.
I agree.
Okay.
So that a satellite picked up space germs, landed on Earth,
Yeah.
and that's why this thing is just so deadly that, like, the
Right.
moment you come in contact
yeah.
with it, you're dead.
That's it. Yeah.
Like, they're both interesting, on their own, but
Right.
I like, because I've just never encountered that idea. Like,
You're right.
You think that if it's alien, it would be able to take advantage of your
Right.
inability to fight it, but in really, if it's alien enough, then it
Yeah.
wouldn't even know what to do with you.
That's actually like a really interesting concept, because there are so many movies specifically that I've seen where it's that whole like host concept.
Yeah.
But like, you're totally right. Like, what would it even, like, what if it was so far removed from us that it didn't even know what to do with our elements?
It would be like it would be like if you had a tick
Yeah.
and you put it on the back of an armadillo.
Right.
It's like, there's no flesh here. I
Yeah.
can't even do anything.
Yeah. It's
you
really
know?
interesting.
So I thought that was cool. But
Yeah.
and then the end is what What happens at the end?
Well, I did like the concept of, because basically they're saying that they figured out that, like, basically there's a zoo on the moon that they've been, like, cultivating and realizing that these animals are living well past their expected life expectancy on Earth.
Right.
And then they've figured out that it'll be the same for humans. So I did think it was kind of interesting where it was like, you know, like, how are we going to break it to Earth people?
But what I don't understand is how that ends with, like, a monkey, like, getting all riled up. Like, I feel like that story has a punchline ending, but I don't get it.
Maybe it's it's the baby. It's like a baby's cry. So it's like
what does
baby
that have to do with
monkey.
anything?
Well, I think maybe it's like, I mean, if we're born from monkeys, I mean, if you already have a life expectancy of 200 years, then maybe the longer the evolution occurs on the moon, that you're going to have 1,000-year-old living creatures. Or maybe I'm reading way far into it.
Yeah.
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 I mean, it's an interesting story because of the possibility, like the possibilities.
Right.
But of course, the wicked funny joke is that it wouldn't. There's no way that would happen.
Right.
Because we've been over this like a million times. We don't belong on the friggin' moon.
Right. I think that
So-
lessens the impact for me too. Is that
Right.
like and he himself has already explored it.
Yeah.
Like, sort of at a certain point, it's like, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Like I know, I read this already from you.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can't fault him for that.
No. And I mean, again, like you just said, there's some interesting bits in there.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. So that was interesting.
Yeah.
The Last Command.
Oh.
It's pretty. I mean, it was all right.
I guess it's just like I'm so sick of this, like just want peace all the time.
I mean,
like,
he half of his life was the Cold War.
Yeah, I know.
You know.
Yeah. So you can't. Yeah, definitely.
And that's very much what fuels.
Yeah, you're right.
A lot of 2010.
Yeah.
Because he wrote in the 80s.
Yeah, you're right.
So basically,
just,
the last command is that you have Russians in space who have the ability to obliterate the Western Hemisphere, and they witness their own hemisphere being obliterated.
Right.
And so they're expecting the command to come to them that says, okay, obliterate the West, but really the final command is don't do anything. It would be nice if some humans survived, regardless of what country they're from.
Yeah, like go and be aid to the, you know, help rebuild.
And I feel like you don't need, like, even if you were the most brainwashed soldier, or if half of a planet gets destroyed, would you really press the button to destroy the other half? Like, would you really do that? Because where the fuck, where are you going to go?
Yeah, you're totally right. I didn't really think about it like that. I think that's like, I think that's just, you know, like for me, like a byproduct of, you know, all the crap that we see on TV and movies, and, you know, that it's just like blow it up, destroy it, kill it, war with it, you know. And you're totally right. Like, hearing that, I'm like,
and I really do think that.
I think you're right.
I really do think that. I mean, who knows what could happen, but you would think that we could all at least be smart enough to not do the nuke thing again.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a good idea.
Yeah, I know.
Because we all have them now.
Right.
And if you set off too many, that's donezo on the world.
I know.
Not a good idea.
It's so stupid that we all have them, though.
I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah, I know. People are so weird. Human beings are like the weirdest.
I guess.
Yeah.
What did you think of Dial F for Frankenstein? Dude, I mean, come on. That's the Terminator. James Cameron, bro. Are you a Clarke fan? It's the Terminator. It's just that instead of the internet, it's telephones.
Yeah, you're right. You're totally right.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
And what does it do? It launches missiles the moment it wakes up. That's that's Judgment Day.
And I love how they again, like, comparing it to, like, the babies, you know, like, what do babies do? They just break things, and, you know, they want to, like, touch everything and mess with everything. And yeah.
I would say in terms of like, I realize this story is pretty like lighthearted.
Yeah.
But in terms of writing, like, it's so obvious what's going on.
Right.
And the scientists are just sitting around like, oh,
Right.
like, can we get some food? Like, why is the food taking so long?
Yeah, like
well,
why
I
are the
heard it.
lights blinking?
Yeah, it's
and,
like, dude, why do you think?
yeah.
Like, hello?
But you're totally right. Yeah, you're right. It's the Terminator. If it had been the telephone line, yeah, you're right.
And like, that's how it opens.
Yeah.
It's like at the exact same moment, every single telephone on the planet rang at the same time. It's like, oh boy.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Okay. What about Reunion? Dude. Reunion was pretty fucking cool.
So,
dude, if you took that last line out of context, which people love to do these days, is take things out of context.
Oh yeah.
My goodness, you could do all kinds of shit with that.
Yeah. So, I think I love it. It's a great story. It's like a perfect little short story. Like it's great. It's like it's tongue in cheek. It's what if things were different? It's it's a great short story. I unfortunately think that it makes light of the race problem. Like
makes light?
Yeah, like it's just like, like
I think in making light of it, you're making people realize that this is different skin colors exist because of evolution.
Right. Well, that's
and
what
adaptation.
Right. No, that's what I'm saying. Like we should all know that. So
well,
it's
if you don't believe in evolution, then you certainly don't know that.
I know. I get.
And it's almost like people people who are obsessed with morality or something. It's like we're so far from where it all started that no one is pure, whatever that means.
Right.
No one is pure.
Right.
Like we are all diversions of different like species of hominids meeting and mating and moving and traveling, and we're just this hodgepodge of genes, man. Like
I know. It's like, but I guess that's what I'm saying is that like the story is great, like on so many levels, but I just feel like today it's not as poignant because it's like we should be past all that shit. Like
but they're aliens.
If it's that, yeah, I know.
Kinda. Yeah,
I know. But basically what it's saying is it's saying that it's flipping racism on its head. So it's saying that really the people who should be ashamed or treated poorly or whatever, like what we have done to like black people of color, it's like it's the reverse. That really white people are, that's what I got from it. And I just think that's what I'm saying is like it's a great it's a great way to look at it. And I like the story, but I just don't think it has as big an impact. It shouldn't have as big an impact anymore because we should be past all of that.
Right. See, I didn't think about racism when I was reading it at all.
Really?
No, because I think it just speaks more to the fact that it's all just like made up. All these things that we think about skin color are just made up. And
but that's what I'm saying is that it is fucking made up. We should be past that. It doesn't, like, I don't understand why we're, and like that's the thing is like this is what the story that the story tells. It's like we're not there anymore. Where we are is like breaking down the systematic racism. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's
Yeah.
like this made sense. That story made sense maybe when it was written,
Right,
but at
right.
this point, I think the story would be looked down on because we shouldn't be thinking about that anymore. We need to be
Right.
thinking about how we need to stop this.
And it comes down to that last line. He uses the
Right.
word cure.
Right.
Like, that's the thing that it's like, whoa.
Right. Yeah.
And it's because it's hinted at in the beginning.
Yeah.
In that, like, basically, and that's what's so cool. I like how the idea that aliens came to Earth were like, let's set up shop here because the
Yes.
entire thing is tropical.
Yes.
And that's where we thrive.
Yeah.
So they did that, but then came the Ice Age.
Right.
And the people, the aliens, some aliens were able to adapt to that,
Yeah.
which is why there are white people.
Right.
So, I don't know. I just didn't really think about race that much. I more thought about, like, because they're aliens. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, I think it's like, it's one of those things where it's like telling our story, like the human story, in a different way. It's like that ancient aliens concept,
Yeah.
you know? And so it's a great, like, ha ha, jokes on the white people. But
But okay, joke is only on the white people if people want to rejoin our ancestors who still live in space and go live on only tropical planets.
right.
You know what I mean? I think
I
maybe
know.
what's confusing me is just the idea that they're aliens and they're not even from Earth.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, because
See-
we should all get along because we all came from the same place.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And we all look different because of adaptations to our environment.
Right.
And but then when you add the sci-fi element of,
Mm-hmm.
well, like, the idea is that being white is like a deformity.
Yeah. Right.
But if you want to stay on Earth, then it's fine. You
Right.
It's not a big deal.
But unfortunately, you can't talk about white and black
yeah.
without looking at what's currently
Yeah.
and has forever gone on.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm saying. Like, you know, when it was like, you know, let's all hold hands and, you know, like, be one people, you know, but like we're obviously
Right,
past
right.
that, and we need to move past that and start figuring out how the hell we're going to stop it.
Yeah. Yes, I agree.
And I, as interesting as the story is, I like it a lot. I just don't think that it works anymore.
Right. I agree. And interestingly enough, on the subject of race, I've never, you know, this deep dive into like the Clarke and Kubrick dynamic. Like, you know, I never thought, it's interesting how I always think about 2001 as like, it's from another time.
Yeah.
But it's the guy who made a movie in 1999 when I was alive and conscious.
Yeah.
You know, and all his other movies, from Full Metal Jacket, The Shining, one of the reasons 2001 feels like it's from another time is that I don't recognize anyone in that movie. Jack Nicholson in The Shining, Shelley Duvall, dude. You got
Yeah.
Vincent D'Onofrio, I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
D'Onofrio. I think.
A few actors in that movie that
Yeah.
like you recognize.
Yeah, you're right.
And even like Malcolm McDowell, you recognize him.
Yeah.
So then it's interesting. I've never really thought about like Clarke must have watched all of Kubrick's movies throughout the years. He outlived him.
Yeah.
I don't like that part in The Shining where you drop the N-bomb because it's fucked up,
I know.
man.
Yeah.
The reason it's fucked up is because I don't have a problem with a character saying that word in a movie.
Right.
I have no problem with the character saying
Right.
that word in that movie if it's part of their character. If
Correct.
they are a scumbag.
Yeah.
Which is that's like Quentin Tarantino movies. Like if you're going to depict racism or slavery,
Yeah.
certain characters are going to use that word.
Right.
But then when these two characters in that movie just say it,
Yeah.
it's like
And also
I don't like it.
And also considering like the time period that would have been, because remember the picture at the end, the 1921, like it felt like
We'll get into this movie. That movie is confusing, man. People,
Yeah.
if you think 2001 is confusing, but you love The Shining, like, please, motherfucker, explain that shit to me. Maybe you've read the book and you get it, but like, who the fuck is Tony?
Yeah,
but anyway,
I felt like, I agree with you. I felt like I was like just hit in the like over the head in the face by that scene. I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Especially because that scene is so amazing.
Yes.
And if you take out that word,
yeah,
like, it's really cool that the supernatural evil entity is like, hey, bro, you got to be ready because someone's on to you.
Right.
So, but
yeah. Anyway, okay.
So let's keep going here. We're over an hour. And I feel like, let's speed this up. Okay, playback's the next one. I wrote not a clue. So what happened in that one?
I like playback. I thought the reason why I liked it, I thought it was a very interesting story because it was about a consciousness being caught on a recording device. So it's that idea. Black Mirror, I think, did explored it maybe in a few, but definitely one I remembered where that concept. Actually, I think a few. That concept of how you can maybe in the future somewhere you can download your consciousness to a computer, basically, and you'll live forever, right? So I thought it was interesting because it's like from the perspective of that consciousness on the recorder, what it must be like to regain consciousness, not in your body, in some kind of playback machine,
Star
basically.
Child without the machine.
Yeah.
It's like rebirth
but
without
you're
a body.
Right, but you're digital.
Right.
So that's the most important part of this is that you're digital, and then of course at the end malfunctions. You're gone. Remember he's calling out for his mom?
I don't remember that story. I must have blacked out while I was reading that story. I don't.
So that was just interesting. I thought it was an interesting exercise and exploration of that concept. I liked it.
Sweet.
And it was short and sweet.
Yeah, I think it's like 2 pages in my book. I might have to just reread it because I don't remember it.
Yeah, it's fun.
The next one, The Light of Darkness. Okay, this one I actually did like. It was good.
Hold on.
About the dictator and the assassination.
Oh.
I really like the ending. I really do.
I do. Well, I really like it, but I don't know. I just didn't like the way that it was delivered or something.
I think it only becomes good at the end.
Yeah,
when you realize that the best way to tear a demagogue down is to prove that they're just like everyone else.
Exactly.
Is to prove that they're human.
Yeah.
Like, you don't, because if you kill a dictator, all you're doing, you're just going to fuel the followers.
Totally.
And so if this person claims to be all-seeing, and you literally blind them, what are they going to do other than crawl into a hole somewhere, and not be able to be an evil dictator anymore? And I kind of dig that there's, like, when it comes to science, the government doesn't matter. It's like, this thing needs to go here, because it has to talk to the satellites up there, right? So it's like, it's like hopefully wherever that is a nice nation that will be welcoming
open
of
to
this.
That,
So I thought it was cool.
No, that's the thing there was something about it that I didn't really like. I didn't like the way it was like told, but I did like what was being told. There was something, it was like choppy or something. I don't know. It was delivered strangely.
I remember I didn't like it until I got to the end, and I was like, oh, okay, I dig it.
Yeah.
So the next one, the longest science fiction story ever told, is it's like a meta thing about the way you got your sci-fi stories published in magazines back in the day.
Yeah.
You can find it
clever.
online. You can't even really explain it. It's
I mean it's cool. Clever. It's more like when you look at it, you're like, oh.
Yeah. It's like a visual.
Yeah, because it's like the mirror, like it's like that mirror, you're like looking in a mirror, like if there's a mirror in front of you and a mirror behind you. Yeah, that's what I thought of. Yeah.
And then Herbert George Morley Robert Swells Esquire.
That was a cool anecdote.
Yeah, but one thing I wrote in my notes is that, like, I don't know what is fact and fiction in this story because he's talking about a real person.
Right.
So, like, I think
sure.
it falls a little flat for me.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. But, yeah, well, I guess I read it as if it were true, and so that's why I thought it was interesting.
Yeah.
And it does talk about, those issues of plagiarism, which are important to any writers, like, like who, like, because like it's like when you think you're special or original or, you know, different, and then you realize that like so many other people do the exact same thing that you do.
Or even just like the whole Skynet thing, the Judgment Day.
Right.
Like those movies are dope. I'm not saying that story takes away from the enjoyment of the Terminator movies, but it's like,
yeah,
this is 1963,
right?
And Clarke, it's
right,
pretty much the same story.
So it's literally like it comes down to like who publishes first, who gets it out there, who gets it to not even who gets it out there, but like who gets seen first. You could have like 5 of the same things, you know, and only one makes it to the masses.
Right.
Yeah. So it was interesting.
Love that universe.
Yeah. Okay. Whatever.
It just reminds me of Monsters Inc. Do you remember that story? Like the whole idea is that the fantasy monster world is fueled by the fear of children.
Yes.
And then by the end, they learn that laughter is more powerful than screams.
Yes.
It's like the kind of, I don't know. That's just what I thought of.
Yeah. I my note was sappy, telepathy to reach super civilizations, save us from Black Dwarf, send a message of love.
Yeah. That was kind of cool to imagine the Black Dwarf like careening through our solar system and just fucking everything up, dude.
Yeah.
Like turning upside down and inside out. Next one is called Crusade. I didn't care really, I don't think.
Wait, what one was that one?
I wrote, an intelligence with no matter sends out emissaries to find other intelligences. It finds Earth, is baffled that humans can survive in such high temperatures, and I guess decides to set us straight on the whole God thing that we are obsessed with.
Yeah, I kind of did like that one, actually. It reminded me so much of Battlestar Galactica, the concept of like how we think we can create these things and then control them.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so it's like, and again, talking about like how there's different kinds of intelligence and different like worth out there. So it's like these creatures that developed of their own volition were made of metal and electricity, and you know, so they're basically like homegrown computers, machines. You know, so it was like interesting that it was like, you know, we like how they were talking about how like planet Earth, once they discovered it, they came to realize that like lesser versions of themselves were able to live in this environment, which is computers and machines. And here we were, you know, and they discovered that there's this other race that thought they were in control of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's the whole God thing, which was really interesting because is that the one where they talk about how funny it is that we, like, if something created us, then what created it?
Yeah.
And it's like, I feel like a dunce sometimes when like I read and I think to myself, why didn't I ever think about that? You know?
Yeah.
Like, that's like,
well, that's interesting because that's an argument that's brought up in the movie Prometheus.
Yes.
Remember when one of the they go on this, that the female character is religious.
Right.
She believes in God.
Right.
And her boyfriend, he's like, how can you, like, look, we're scientists, like, look what we're doing. We're trying to find our makers. And she's like, well, who made them?
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Yeah, so it's definitely an interesting I mean, it's not like, it didn't like floor me by any means, you know, any of it, but I thought it was again, like a very cool, you know, interesting look on things, and definitely reminded me so much of Battlestar Galactica and, you know, the Cylon human war.
Yeah.
Can't we just leave well enough alone?
All right, so last one, Neutron Tide. My note literally just says an American flag joke. These stories feel too short to be impactful.
Yeah,
that was my note. I don't even remember what it's about.
This one, it was literally a joke. Although it was interesting too. Like I actually liked the way that one was written. It was almost like a skit more, you know, because it would cut to like, you know, like the narration, but then it would cut to like it's wicked short story, but then cut to like the one line where it was like, everyone like, gulped and, cleaned themselves up and, and like the mucoids and like how they were like a vomitous race. Like it was a very playful,
right.
Like if it had been serious and then the end had just been, that last line had been there, it would have been completely stupid, but it was like very playful and kind of funny. It was definitely like, it felt to me like a dad joke, like an eye roller, But did you look up what a spanner is?
No.
Because I thought about it and I thought it was just a play on words, the Star Spangled Banner. And I thought it was just like a mangled up thing, but a spanner is a wrench.
Oh.
So a star mangled spanner. So see, it's a dad joke.
Yeah. It's like a play on words.
Yes, exactly.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right on, Clarke.
Yeah.
All right.
That one's a funny one.
Imagine if you experienced 2001 and then the next thing you read was fucking Neutron Tide.
Yeah. It's a little rough. Overall, I mean, although it's interesting though, I do appreciate these stories more knowing that it was like tied to technology, because if you think about it, that is what this is very much about. Like some of the other stories that I've read have been like, like adventures and planets and other worlds and this and that, but like these felt like grounded, which is maybe why I didn't necessarily appreciate them as much.
And the White Heart collection was more grounded, but it was that one is like clearly tongue in cheek, and done with a little more command, I think, than these ones. These all just feel like a hodgepodge of funny little ideas with a couple like epic ones thrown in.
Totally agree.
And we are gonna do a totally separate episode about A Meeting with Medusa, which I don't remember it. Did you read it?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I haven't read it.
Good. So in my book, I have a mass market paperback. In my book, it's over 60 pages. So we're going to save it for its own episode.
Mm.
And the thing is, I've definitely seen it published as its own book.
Really?
Yeah. So I think I'm pretty sure that it's good.
Nice.
I would assume so. I'm not sure. But that'll be the next episode, and if you're a listener, that'll be the next thing published. So, do you want to talk about the movie that we watched?
Yeah.
Can we actually take a break, though? Can I get some more water?
Absolutely.
I just want more water. Should I go get it, or where is it?
Yeah, actually, maybe you should, because then maybe they won't move. It's
Where do
just
you keep it?
The coffee maker. It's right there, next to it. Why in the world do you have that in your head?
Gee, I really love you, and we're gonna watch Full Metal Jacket. Going to the chapel of love. All right. So, The
Shining.
Yeah, so...
Red Rum.
So we watched...
Red Rum.
We watched 2001, and I read the book all about Kubrick's craziness making that movie.
Yeah.
And regardless of the fact that that's the only real sci-fi movie he made, when you get on a Kubrick kick, it's hard to get off of it.
Oh, yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
So I suggested we watch The Shining for this episode because it's... because you said you hadn't seen Full Metal Jacket, and I was like, dude, we should watch that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even care that it's not sci-fi.
I know, I feel embarrassed. I can't believe you just said that. I feel embarrassed I have not seen that movie.
I'd never seen The Shining.
What?
That's why we did this, remember?
Oh, yeah, that's
I mean,
right.
I've seen parts of it on TV. Yeah. I've never actually sat there and watched the whole thing.
Oh.
Never. Because I don't like horror. Not horror. I don't like horror movies.
The Shining is like a big... It played like a big part of my life, I guess.
Really?
Like, I have memories about, like... watching the movie with people and friends and repeating things that are said in it, and like it was very much like, and being like I'm wowed by it and scared by it. Like I have a lot of like, it's very much like a part of me, which seems weird, but
Yeah, I mean...
Just some movies that you watch when you're younger are, like, very influential.
Yeah, and that's the thing that sucks, man, is when something is so iconic like that, and you're
Yeah.
kind of like me, and you're kind of like plugged into pop culture and movies, and you finally watch the thing, and you're like, I kind of knew all this.
Yeah.
But, so that's what, maybe I feel a little bit like Heather watching 2001.
Or me watching Terminator. I had never seen, like, I probably would have freaking loved Terminator 2.
Oh, yeah.
But I was just like, get out of here.
Right.
Yeah.
So I suggested The Shining simply because I'd never seen it, and it's more sci-fi, obviously, than Full Metal Jacket. It's just a Vietnam War movie.
And I mean, all the, like, seeing the movie, even though I've seen it tons of times, seeing it in this at this stage in my life with the things that are currently going through my mind and important to me and stuff like that, I had a whole different perspective watching it, and it
me too.
very much relates to, I mean, the telepathy part. Like, I knew it was part of it, but like it's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
it's the title of the movie.
Right. The
like,
Shining. Yeah.
I don't think it ever even occurred to me.
Yeah, and one problem I had with watching it this time is that it just reinforced my really, really strong desire to read the Gunslinger, the Dark Tower series.
Oh yeah,
because I talked to a friend of mine who's read all those, and he's read all the ones that connect, and The Shining is one of the ones that deeply connects.
Oh,
so the whole time I'm watching, I'm like, I bet all of this is so much more expanded upon in the book and in the Dark Tower series. So part of me, I was left a little bit wanting, especially because I'll just add, who the fuck is Tony? Like, who is that?
Yeah, so I don't know. Mallory and I were talking about it after watching it, and I was just like, it's just like there are like, I see like three distinct things going on in the movie that I didn't like. I think when I'd seen it previously, I thought they were all connected, but I kind of feel like they're all their own thing. Like, you've got the telepathy, The Shining, right? You've got whoever the hell Tony is, because that's different. Even the cook, even he is like, and who's Tony? Like, it's not part of The Shining. That's something different. And then you have whatever the beef is between the hotel and Jack.
Well, yeah, and
you know.
See, that's the thing, is that I feel like maybe Tony might be the Man in Black, who is the main villain of the Dark Tower. I could be totally wrong, but and he's the main villain of The Stand. And this is why it frustrates me, dude, is that The Stand is 1,400 pages long. I got 400 pages in and I stopped.
Ooh.
So in that, like, I don't think I'll ever, maybe, hopefully someday I'll read it all.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's epic. But then, dude, probably one of my favorite fucking Stephen King books is also deeply tied to the Dark Tower, but on its own, it worked so well.
Yeah.
It's called From a Buick 8.
Yeah.
And it's about these cops in Pennsylvania who, I don't remember all the details, but they get this Buick, this old ass Buick.
Yeah.
And the Buick is a portal to another dimension. And it's amazing.
Oh my God.
And like, it is such a good book.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, I think the Man in Black is the one who like leaves the Buick where they find it.
Oh, I gotcha.
So it's all this. It's like it's all this interconnected thing that he was doing.
Heard,
like everyone knows about it. But
yeah.
Anyway,
well, the first thing is that you know that the movie and the book are completely different.
Yes.
And that Stephen King didn't even like the movie.
And I'm under the impression that the reason Stephen King doesn't like the movie is because the movie plays up the supernatural stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas the book is like, his demons are supposed to be his alcoholism.
Yeah.
I think that's why King doesn't like that. I think he publicly says that that's why he doesn't like it.
So one of the things that I thought was that, and this is something that occurred to me watching it this time that I don't think had occurred to me before. Mostly because I think I always see Jack Nicholson as Jack Nicholson. He's like he it's like whatever he plays is like, that's just him, you know? But I really looked at it more like I was really like watching it and I was looking at him like a character, and I realized that he's a complete and total asshole before he even gets to the hotel.
Yeah, dude. Okay, let's get to my favorite line in the whole movie. And let's get to the moment, for me as someone who basically knows the whole story before I'm going in.
Right.
The moment where it finally diverged into its own thing is when he has the conversation with the fake bartender.
Yes.
Motherfucker, that whole thing, man. And my favorite line in the whole movie is because it's finally where he's alone with himself.
Yes.
And he picks up his fucking drink, dude, and he goes, "Here's to 5 miserable months on the wagon." And you're like, that is you, bro. That is you to your soul.
Right.
That is how you feel. And that is like... That's sobriety, man. It's like while you're sober, you're like, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. Look at me. Everyone's proud of me. But really, when you're alone with your own thoughts, you're like, man, I wish I was high. And that's how it is, man.
And but what about the line right before that where he says, I'd give my soul for a beer? Like, and so that's what's like what you're saying. Like, that is so totally true, is that I think when I watched it before, I just thought he was like a quirky guy. And then
he's a fucking alcoholic,
right? And then that the minute he gets into the hotel, that's when like the hotel starts messing with him,
right?
But no, it's not until he gives himself over to the hotel in that scene. Everything before that, he's just a fucked up jerk,
right? Who
beats his kid,
right? And it's not to say that being an alcoholic
and treats his wife like an animal.
And I don't want to. I want to say what I said before. A fucking alcoholic. That doesn't make you a bad person.
No,
but
not at all.
The point. I mean, like with his character, he's just not okay with it.
No,
and he's only sober because he hurt his kid.
Right.
That's the only. And like that performance when he's talking to that bartender.
Right.
I think it. I love it so much because it's one of the only scenes that I didn't know was there. It's one of the only. Aspects of his character and of the movie that I didn't know about.
Yeah.
So it's more impactful.
Mm-hmm.
But like, you realize in that moment that and man, like you really do kind of sympathize with him. 'Cause he's like just a millisecond less pressure and I wouldn't have dislocated his shoulder. You know, it's like these little things and it's like man, like how many people in the world have driven drunk? Right? And through miracle, they're okay, and maybe they don't do that anymore. And that's awesome that no one ever got hurt.
Exactly.
But it's like you're fucking playing with fire, man, and sometimes you get burned.
And I think that's what it is that really he's just a weak human because he can't take responsibility for what he did. Like, instead it's like... You know what I mean? It's like...
That's the whole thing at the end when he's like, my responsibilities.
Yes.
He's not talking about the hotel. He's talking about like his own fucked up brain.
Yeah, I think so. Like if he had just like, you know, like stepped up and been like, I did this. I hurt my kid and this is what I got to do to fix this. But instead he says that 5 miserable months on the wagon. Like he's just a weak person who can't figure out a way to get his shit together.
Yeah, and I just man, that's the best scene in the movie, I think. When he has that conversation really with himself. Right. Because that bartender's not there.
Yep.
And so it just everything comes out in that moment.
Yeah.
You just realize that you're right, he's not owning up to it. He doesn't want to be sober.
No.
He's doing it because if he doesn't, his fucking whole life falls apart.
Right.
You know, and he's just not in control of himself. And then the hotel just takes advantage of that.
Yeah, exactly. And then like going like, you know, like back to like the telepathy part of it. I think I had always thought that the hotel and the spirits and whatever was going on was messing with the little boy. But what I realize watching it this time is that every single thing with him is like, it's like, you know, like the parts where he's like, you know, freaking out and like blah, 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 like that's him trying to communicate. Like I thought he was being like possessed or something, but he's trying to communicate. And then I think the because I think so. Like the Tony role is he's like the gateway. Like Tony is because he says like Tony's showing him things. So Tony is the part that's allowing him to see what malice does lie in the hotel. Because I think I always thought like like it was like the whole family was like but really it's only Jack who is affected by whatever is going on.
Yeah.
And the family is a victim of him.
Right.
So there's no ill will from whatever is going on, like the hotel, the spirits, whatever. There's no ill will there on the kid or the woman. I don't even think they like can perceive it other than Tony showing him. You know?
Okay. Yeah,
it's like because they're not the kind of people that the hotel would prey on.
So why does the kid have the knife? Why does he write murder? And then why does he have the knife? And she takes the knife from him. Like, what is that?
Because he's been taken over. Like you could, I mean, I don't know. You could just say it's like he's being taken over by Tony. Maybe something happened in his past. So, well, yeah, because she says the Tony thing started when he got hurt. Oh, right. So maybe it's like almost like a kind of like a split personality kind of situation where like maybe it's like, but because Danny is tapped in to the Shining, like maybe that's the other part of him that's open to the you know, being able to perceive that danger and that supernatural whatever is going on there. So it's like he gets taken over by Tony when Danny can't handle it.
See, okay, I perceive that part as the reason Tony was able to take over Danny's because Danny did leave to go tell the cook to come. But maybe I'm wrong.
Oh.
Because it's not until... Because the only reason the cook decides to be curious about what's going on at the hotel is because Danny's telling him telepathically.
Right.
So to me, it seems like it would take a lot of effort for a telepath to communicate to someone who's thousands of miles away.
Yes,
that
so
the
he's
body would be left a vessel.
Exactly. So yes, so the only way for him to survive at that point is for Tony to take over. But Tony's obsessed with the whole like murder thing because Tony's the one that can see that.
Okay.
Not Danny. Tony just tells Danny about it.
Right.
But Danny can't. Danny's not tapped into that. It's whatever this Tony thing is that's tapped into that.
And the thing in the beginning where the guy mentions the Indian burial ground, is that supposed to be why the hotel is fucked up?
I literally have no idea.
Because if that's the case, man, then like that Stephen King's obsessed with that because that's the whole Pet Cemetery thing.
Well, exactly. That was a wicked creepy offhand remark too. Like talk about like certain like little off color things. Yeah. Because remember he said that the guy says like, you know, like story has it that they were like fighting off.
Yeah, they had to fight off attacks
while they were
building it.
Yeah, like gross.
Right. Yeah, and it was built in 1907, which you know, in the Rocky Mountains, which was still kind of the untamed West a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah. And I guess, and it's funny, man, because what I take from that movie is not the little girls, but that is the iconic thing. And think about 2001.
Oh, yeah.
Hal is so unimportant, really.
Right.
But that's what we all cling to, and that's what we all remember.
Yeah, totally.
Like, we all have seen the image of the two girls standing there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's so inconsequential. It's just the family that this happened to before. And I guess we could talk about, like, film. Well, first, hold on.
Okay.
What's with the ending? Why is he in a picture from 1921? That's more ambiguous than a Star Child, if you ask me.
So I don't get that at all. Like I didn't get it at all, right?
And I don't understand the random creepy shit at the end. Like the pig face and the butler with the blood, like that doesn't connect with anything that led up to.
I don't.
I get that he was at that party.
Right.
The whole scene when he's at the party is awesome. It's good. And with the conversation in the bathroom, it's good, but I don't really understand. Like, And I under it's not in the in the text that what we talk about it when we're English majors. If it's not in the text, you can't talk about it.
Yeah.
Because then you're making shit up.
Yeah.
It's not in the text that this has happened prior to the person who did it before Jack.
Yeah.
But I would have assumed that this would happen in waves.
Yeah.
Like
right.
There was someone before. What's his name? The guy who did it before him.
Grady.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would assume Grady had a predecessor.
Right.
But that's not ever really talked about. Maybe it's in the book. I don't know.
Right.
So that shot at the end where he's in the. I mean, you just sat through a masterpiece, so you're like, all right, this is cool.
Yeah.
But really, when you think about it, it's like, why is he there?
Yeah.
And I saw on Instagram that 100-year anniversary just went by.
Oh.
July 4th, 2021.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
You're totally right. That's so weird. Yeah, I definitely don't get it, except for like the fact that like maybe like he's like a part of it now.
Yeah.
Like I don't look at it like a from the past, but I look at it more like it's like he's there. Like he's part of the hotel now. Like like and that will be almost like that will be who he'll be next time around. Like next victim. It's like maybe.
Dude, they should. Well, it's so dope to imagine like the next one where Grady doesn't show up, but Jack Nicholson shows up.
Yes,
and he's talking to whatever poor bastard decides to take care of that place. And I mean, if you really think about it, in the beginning of that movie, I'm just like you really can't. You really leave someone here for 5 months? Like you can't. Plow the road. Like it doesn't snow the whole time.
Yeah, I know.
You can't like send some people up there every once in a while. Like, it seems a little weird.
I know. And also like I don't know, I feel like what he was using it for would be like legitimately awesome. Like that people would totally be able to handle that.
I would love to have that job.
Right? Like go 5 months, go stay and you like focus on whatever work you're focusing on.
Yeah.
Like it's interesting, but I think maybe that's like part of it too, is that like that's why like the hotel had it out for him specifically, because obviously this only happened one other time that they mention. Right. So there had to have been other caretakers between Grady and him that were fine,
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's just like that it's a particular person.
Yeah.
Because if you look at that scene, it's like really he came to the hotel. Like he went, like I say the hotel, but like the bartender is a manifestation of the hotel. Also himself, but it's like like he's having that conversation with himself, but it's being bounced off of this manifestation that the hotel is presenting. And I think it's like maybe that's what it is. It's like he invited this shit to happen to him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's clear from the beginning that he's a fucking loose cannon.
Yeah.
At least that,
yes.
I took that.
Right. Well, and that's what's so funny is I didn't look at it like that before.
Yeah.
It's like I think when I looked at it, I was like, well, that's just Jack Nicholson.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a thing that I consciously tried to do while watching this movie.
Right.
I consciously tried to be like, okay,
yeah,
like it's 1980 and I'm in the movie theater and like I'm just watching the cool next Kubrick movie.
Yes.
And
well, I think I did that too. Like that's why I said like I got a new perspective. Is like I was like really like looking at it as like not something that I already knew what it was. I was like watching it, like really watching it.
Yeah, I do want to talk about. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else like story related that I want to talk about before we talk about like the filmmaking. I do think that, and I had this conversation with Heather this morning because she was at the house.
Yeah,
and she had a funny answer which I'll share. But
right.
I think that if you're gonna have the little boy climb out of the window, you have to hire a heavier actress who doesn't look like she could easily fit through that window. And Heather was like, well, maybe they should have cast a skinnier window. And I was like, touche.
Right.
But I'm watching it. I'm like, you can definitely fit out of that window.
No, I bought it because of the fact that it's a tiny window. And I know she's a tiny lady, but like it's a tiny window, but she couldn't get it up all the way. Like, so if it was a tiny window, he's a little kid. I bought it.
I could fit through that window.
No, I don't
I'm
think
probably
that you could.
fat. I'm probably wider than she is.
I don't think that you could. I think that
if
we should take.
If
okay,
Jack
listen,
Nicholson was chasing me, I could. I'd scrape up my hips, but I'd be out of there, dude. I get naked to climb out.
I think we need to take a little road trip. We need to take the Space Dreamers on the road. We need to go to the hotel, and we need to say, "Can we please see if Jared can fit through the window?"
Yeah, that would be pretty epic.
And I'll do some kind of impersonation of Jack Nicholson, so you'll definitely want to get the hell out of there.
That would be horrifying. Wait, so also, what was I going to say? I'm looking forward to watching Twister again.
Yeah.
Because do you remember the scene? There's a part in Twister when a tornado takes out a drive-through. What is the drive-up?
Yeah.
And that scene with the axe is playing as the screen is torn apart by the tornado.
Oh,
it's really cool.
That's awesome.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
And well, what you said, that three things happening, I was surprised watching this movie for the first time that it's not all about Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
Like all three of them get their own mini storylines.
Right.
You know, it's like she is a little passive, maybe, you know, which is kind of disappointing, but she's definitely, she gets like equal screen time, even like on her own.
Oh, yeah.
So I liked that.
Right.
And
that's the thing there. It was so striking to me how evenly matched the three of them are in their performances. Like, I think you're right. We focus on Jack Nicholson, but that kid is amazing. And Shelley Duvall is incredible.
Yeah.
Like,
dude, okay. Oh, bro, the monologue she gives when she's talking to the woman in the beginning.
Yes.
You're like, girl, you are in denial.
Yes.
Like, you are in denial.
Yes.
And it's so obvious. And it's so obvious because of her acting.
Right.
And the writing, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I cut you off if you wanted to say something.
About what?
I don't know. I forgot what you were going to say.
No, I mean, I was just like, I was going to say from like, you know, we could talk about the movie as just a film. I mean, as like it's incredible. Like, I forgot how amazing those shots are of him on the bike. When the little boy is riding through
yes. Okay.
Like, those were amazing.
Dude, the use of sound in this movie.
Yes.
Because when he goes over the carpet and it gets quiet, oh my, I was just like, and I remember I when he started riding and he went over the carpet one time, I was like, that better not be the only time he goes over that carpet.
Yeah.
And then he rounds the corner and it's like, and then it's like quiet, loud. And I was like, this is amazing.
I know.
And I texted you and I mentioned the fact that the movie is full of all those tracking shots because it's a new technology at the time.
Yeah, and that's so cool.
And not credited to Stanley. He didn't invent that.
Right.
Someone is credited as like legitimately inventing that camera.
Yeah.
And he and a handful of other people at that time took advantage of it, like early adopters.
Yeah.
And that's like what it made me want. Like, it made me want to watch like an actual movie that's one shot.
Right.
Like, I love 1917.
Right.
But it's, you know, it's all like stitched together.
Right.
It's an illusion. Like, you could make a movie with three characters that's all one shot. If it was in like a big wide open place like that, it would be so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I can't even imagine like cinema without such things like that.
Yeah.
You know? And like, that's something that like I was thinking is like how just like in 2001, like even though there are things in it that like date it, it feels modern.
The
like,
Shining?
Yeah. Like, and the same with 2001. Like, there's something about like the quality of the filmmaking that like it's nothing about it seems old.
Yeah, it's not of the time.
Yeah.
Because if you were there at the time, you'd would think you'd be like, this is different and new.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't think it fits in any time.
Right. I was just struck by like how.
And the people like there's a lot of superfluous visual bullshit in 2001.
Right.
But I would argue this movie that comes into play with like that, like I said, I guess I already said this, that pig face.
Yeah, that was weird. It was like a snippet, but
it was just like this shot is just looks cool, but I don't think it means anything.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know?
Oh, and then also remember when she ends up in the lobby and it's all cobwebs and skeletons.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it gets a little wild at the end there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's just like, like looking around like,
yeah.
I don't know. But okay, I think my favorite scene is when she's got the bat.
Yes. I can't believe it. Yes.
And he's like, I don't want to hurt you. I just want to bash your brains in.
Oh my
and
word.
He was just like, and what I like about that movie is that the whole time I'm watching it, I'm like, if she doesn't fucking hit him in the head, then I'm done. Like, just you gotta like just get rid of him.
Yeah.
So when he did that, I was like, awesome, thank you. And then when she locked him in the pantry, it's like, okay, perfect. Yeah. Literally, he can live in there. Yeah. If you don't want to murder him, he can live in there with all the food. Lock him in there. And I'm like, so like, you better not fucking let him out because then I hate you as a character. Right. But then no, Grady lets him out.
Yep.
So that gives you, it's like, okay, that's how the rest of the movie can happen.
Yeah.
It's like a good excuse, and it allows me to still sympathize with the choices made by the characters,
right?
Which I think is a problem, obviously, in horror movies.
Yes,
but in
totally.
Movies in general, when characters don't react in like the way a normal thinking person would react,
right? And
clearly are reacting just to further the plot. I think this movie does a really good job of avoiding that.
Yes, which I think makes it that much scarier because you're like essentially like you're doing what you quote unquote should be doing.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
Because that's so perfect. Just stick him in, because it's like you don't want to murder him because you don't know that all this, that you think that he's just crazy.
Right.
So you can't murder him because the cops show up and there's a dead guy. They're going to be like, you're going to jail.
Yeah.
So stick him in the pantry with all the food.
Yeah.
But then he's like,
plus also like, it's like typical, like, terrified, terrorized wife. Like she doesn't, I mean, that's the father of her child. She obviously continues to give him the benefit of the doubt. She doesn't want to murder him.
Right. Yes.
It's like, just self-preservation. Like what decisions can she make to make sure she doesn't die, but she doesn't want to hurt him.
I want to say something that's kind of fucked up.
Oh.
While I'm watching this movie.
Yeah.
I'm going, like 2001 is not completely accessible, right? And I don't think that this movie is either.
Accessible? What do you mean?
Easy to sit through and enjoy, because it's not a normal movie.
Okay.
Part of me thinks that, like, because it's like everyone knows The Shining.
Right.
And I'm sitting there watching them. This is a goddamn art house movie, and everyone sits through it and loves it. I have this weird feeling, man, that, like, people watch that movie and, like, men especially, and are like, get why he would go crazy.
Yeah.
And it's almost like you sympathize with him. Not that you want to murder your wife, but that, like, the supernatural shit allows the true inner Jack Nicholson that he represses through like normal society, societal norms. He lets it come out. Yeah. And I think, and maybe this is fucked up to say, man, but I just think that there are some people who are in unhappy relationships, who see that, and not that they want to kill anyone, but that like when he freaks out when he's writing, I just think there's a lot of people who want to say that to their spouse and they can't. Right. I think that people cling to that. And I think Yeah.
Well, that's I think what appeals from a horror point of view is that it's so real.
Yeah.
Like the things outside of like the weird things. I mean, it's really about how a family is interacting and like how like the frustrations of life and daily life. And like you said, like even like maybe the, like the pressure of society or, normal life, whatever it is, like, like also like, I think it's just like relatable.
Yeah. Like he's only sober because he has to be.
Right.
Not because he wants to be.
And like how even like, like, oh, he was a teacher, but he was only a teacher to pay the bills. So like, that's not who he is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, who is he? So I definitely, I hear, I mean, it's obvious the horror and that part of it is pulled off so well.
Yeah.
Like, so well. It's incredible.
Wait, which part?
The horror aspect,
right,
like the parts that are terrifying.
Yes.
Like the stuff that makes your skin crawl, like on the edge of your seat. Like it's just wild. Like I think that's why, like, I forget that Stanley Kubrick made it because I don't think of him like that.
Right.
Like what you just said, you're like, it's an art house film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just part of me like, yeah.
Yeah.
Like 2001 is hard to relate to.
Yes.
But if you say The Shining is easier to relate to, then like, what are you saying about people who relate to that movie?
Right.
And who can sit through an art house movie with all the weird shit that happens in that movie.
I think though, like, like maybe you're putting like a more of a menacing spin on it, but really it's just, it's human nature, like it's just the human experience. Like we all get, frustrated. We all get angry. We all, so it's like, even if I'm not a fucking psychopath, or want to murder my wife or bash her brains in,
right,
I can still relate to that stuff.
Yes.
Yeah,
and I think it the real comparisons don't really go beyond the scene where he yells at her when he's on the typewriter. Yeah. He's like, when I'm in here working, that means you don't come in here. It's like, I just think that people want to be like that.
Yeah.
But you can't.
So my favorite scene, and I didn't like, I was just like, when I realized like what I was really looking at, I was just like, damn. My favorite scene is the entire part where he's talking to her through the door, and it's filmed from underneath him.
Right.
Like, what an impact that
the shot
makes.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I
was just like blown away.
And the whole time I'm watching it, I'm thinking like, this is the like, and I sound like such a fanboy, but it's like, this is the genius of Stanley Kubrick. I don't think on set, like, especially as the actor, because you're not looking through the monitor.
Right.
Like, I feel like if you're the actor, you'd be like, why is the camera down there?
Right.
But then when you see it in the movie theater, you're like, wow, I get it. Not only that, but like, part of me was thinking in the part where like he's in the room and she's in the bathroom, and he's acting crazy, but it has that music in the background.
Yeah.
I'm like, on set there was no music, and
know.
he just had to trust that it would all come together, and that they weren't making a movie that people were going to watch and go, this is ridiculous.
Right.
I
thought that exact same thing during that scene. I was like, this is just a man chopping away at a door.
Right.
But like the genius of who put it all together and saw the greater vision.
Yeah.
Is just amazing that people can do that.
Mm-hmm. And that, dude, the thing that it's the analogy I make is, if you're making a Superman movie, there's nothing cool, okay, about a guy in a costume laying like this, like probably on top of like a green box, just doing this with a wind machine.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing cool about that.
Right.
Not until the post-production, the CGI, the music, the sound effects, do you become Superman.
Yeah.
And it's just movie making. And it's like, you just have to trust.
Right.
And again, like, sound, obviously music, but also sound. Like how that fucking movie opens. And it's just like, the beauty of Colorado, first of all, shot at the perfect time of day, and that must have been a helicopter or airplane.
Yeah.
And that music.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you got to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And it's done so well. And I'm like, I'm like obsessed with that music now. And dude, okay, I want to make a movie. I really do. Like a fictional movie. And I was texting Cielo about this. And I was like, Cielo, you have to see this opening scene. Like, you have to understand, like you can do awesome shit with movies. Like, you don't have to be like a normal movie. Like, with the sound design and everything. And I sent her that clip of that opening scene just with the music. And I want to find her response. Hold on.
Yeah. Yeah, the sound was awesome. And I think, like, it probably, like, attributed to my overall, like, love of the film. But I was, like I said, I was really paying attention this time. And it's just, like, it's so, like, poignant.
Yeah. So her response, I sent her that clip. She just said, "How can music be terrifying and make your heart race like that?" That was her response. And I'm like,
great.
But I also, because it reminded me of The Thing. And the way The Thing opens is after the title card, it's the whole scene where it's like the helicopter flying and the guy's trying to shoot the dog. Because then you learn later that the dog is the Thing.
Oh.
And it plays this music. It's just bum, 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 bum. And it's so effective.
Yeah.
Because you don't really know what's going on, but with that music, it's like clearly some not good shit is going on.
Right.
And the most interesting thing about that is that movie came out in 1981. This movie came out in 1980. So I have this idea, man, where I'm going to watch all the movies, a bunch of movies that only came out in 1980, and try to replicate them in a movie.
Interesting.
You got the zoom.
Yeah.
Movies don't zoom anymore.
Right.
They zoom in, they zoom out back in the day. They literally don't do that anymore. It's like not done anymore.
Yeah.
And with that music and that sound design, you could make a really interesting experience.
Yeah.
Like, but anyway, and I loved watching this movie, obviously as a fan of movies and as a fan of Kubrick, but I can come to it fresh. You know, like I can stand here all day and be like, the classical music with the spaceships, how cool is that?
Right.
But now it's new to me.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite shots of all time, is when he's swinging that axe.
Yeah.
And the camera goes forward and back,
Yes.
forward and back. And you're just like, I don't even know why this is so cool, but it's so cool.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
That shot, especially, like, when you watch that, you're like, this is another level.
Oh, yeah.
And I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But overall, good movie.
Yeah. I was going to say, people are going to hate this episode because we're
Yeah.
just, like, drooling over it.
It's not perfect, man.
No.
Like I said.
No, there are definitely some moments.
And Kubrick loves the fucking things moving really slow.
Yes.
Like, remember with the naked lady?
Yes.
I'm like, this is going to be all one shot, and they're going to embrace, and it's taking so fucking long. I'm like, Jesus.
Yeah. I will say, though, it's funny because, I mean, this movie is, almost as long as 2001?
Yeah.
And there was not a single, like, 2001 feels like it's 4 hours long.
Yes.
This movie felt like it was an hour and a half. Like,
right.
You know what I mean? Like,
I do agree with that.
Yeah,
for
it was
sure.
like just full of interest and you know, important information.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think the last thing I will say, just because two things just about movie making, but
Yeah.
I watched an interview with Quentin Tarantino, and he was talking about how the 1980s, that movies got, like, neutered in the 80s. They got, like, people, basically it was like a surge of kind of what we're going through now, of like a hyper political correctness thing.
Yeah.
And basically, I think that The Shining is the tail end of before that happened.
I think you're right.
Because, Jack Nook, like, just, it's pretty, and it's too bad that I knew it was coming, but, like, it's pretty bold how he's chasing him through the dark, and then it just, like, jump cuts to him frozen.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, like, what did you think was going to happen to him?
Right.
He's, like, limping, walking through a maze, totally fucking crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was cool.
Yeah.
And then, so the one other thing is I literally, wasn't gonna do it, but I really wanted to watch Full Metal Jacket when I finished The Shining. So instead I watched like things about Full Metal Jacket on YouTube.
Interesting, yeah.
And one of it's like all this stuff, just like we're doing, just people fawning over Kubrick and how cool he is and all this bullshit. But like one of the things I watched the whole thing about how he treats actors and how he gets good performances out of actors.
Really?
And like one of the things that like during Full Metal Jacket, like things were going like overtime and people weren't getting paid, and an actor complained about it. Okay, was literally like, we should be getting paid more.
Yeah.
Next day they came in, and Kubrick was like, we rewrote your character, and your character's gonna die today. He's like, you don't want to be here? We're just gonna kill your character. Like, you want to make a masterpiece, bro, or you want to whine about your overtime?
Ooh, yeah.
So his character died earlier than he should have in the script because the guy was complaining.
Oh my God.
Whereas nobody else was complaining, and
that would so not fly these days.
Yeah. So anyway, I guess that's it.
Yeah.
Next episode should be a meeting with Medusa, and then Rendezvous with Rama, which will be exciting.
I'm very excited.
Which means, in real time, we get to read that book. I'm probably going to start it tomorrow.
Me too.
Pretty excited.
I'll probably start it tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Word. Okay.
Except for I take that back. I might need to watch A Clockwork Orange.
Tonight?
Yeah.
Let's watch Full Metal Jacket tonight.
Oh.
Dude,
we could do that.
Either... If you and I don't watch it together, I'm watching it really soon by myself. Okay. Like, I used to own that before I even knew who Kubrick was.
Yeah.
I owned that movie on DVD.
Well, that's,
I recognize how different and cool it is.
Okay, and so that's what's so funny to me. I will say it over and over and over again. My favorite movie of all time is The Clockwork Orange. And I don't even think I realized who the director was.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, man. I've said this before. One of the best black comedies, one of the best sci-fi movies, one of the best horror movies, one of the best war movies.
Yeah.
Like, how does he do that? It's crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. So it's just like, that's the thing, is like, I love so much. It's like I just said, it's like I knew The Shining was him, but like I didn't know. I don't know. It's like I realized that I love so much of his work. Why haven't I seen all of it?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I gotta get on that.
So that wraps it up. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you haven't seen The Shining, you should totally go see it. Mm-hmm. Go watch it.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode of The Space Dreamers, a Sue Madre production. See you next time.